Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday, 9 p.m. here in Ireland, and it's our time for our spiritual light. And today, the topic is racism. And, well, where is she? And Nadja from Lithuania is with us today, but at least she was here a few minutes, 1 second ago, but now she's up here. But she will join us. Probably she's having connection problems. And again, I am with my best friend, Charles and Silvia. It's good to have you all here. So, good evening, Silvia. How are you, my dear?
I'm very well, thank you. A few things this week, but I'm good. And it's always nice to be together again, talking about important topics as we do. I hope everyone is well as well. And let's hope we have a good talk today. Boa tarde a todos. Hoje temos um tema diferente, vai ser bom discutirmos e vai ser bom estar com todos vocês. Que Deus nos abençoe. Thank you.
Amém. Labas, Nadja.
Labas visiems, labas vakaras, laba diena, labas rytas. I was a little bit trying to to get back here with the internet, and it wasn't working, and now I put my phone and it wasn't in the right place. I'm sorry. Labas vakaras dar kartą, tai šiandien mes kalbėsime apie labai rimtą temą, ir tai yra rasizmas. Ir rasizmas yra labai aktuali tema. Mes kalbėsim, kaip spiritizmas gali, arba kokią spiritizmo požiūrį į tą temą. Tikiuosi, kad mums visiems yra labai svarbu ir mes galėsime pakalbėti ir dalintis savo patirtis. Hello, everybody, again. So, Silvia has already spoken about our topic from tonight. So I hope we all can discuss this so important and actual and recent topic. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here with you all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nadja. Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir, Stevan. Bonsoir à tous. Très heureux d'être à nouveau ensemble ce soir avec notre sœur Nadja, Silvia, avec Stevan pour parler du sujet du jour qui est le racisme. Et donc on verra que à l'époque de la codification, le racisme était une conception scientifiquement admise, qu'il y avait des races supérieures et des races inférieures, mais courageusement, Kardec et les esprits se sont élevés contre cette conception scientifique de l'époque, pour notamment avec l'argument massu qu'on verra tout à l'heure, que ce sont les mêmes esprits qui s'incarnent dans toutes les ethnies. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Very happy to be here again with you, with our sisters Nadja and Silvia, and with our brother Stevan. So very happy to talk about this topic, which about racism, which is less and less admitted, thanks God. And we will show how what was the position of Kardec at the time, 160 years ago, where science, official science, was still admitting that there were races which are superior to other ones. Of course, everything has disappeared nowadays, and we will show you that Spiritist body of knowledge has strongly contributed to this move.
Great. Wonderful. Let me tidy up my screen here, and let's see our video for today. Let me share my screen. There we go. Let's go.
Are God's creations, and we had exactly the same beginning. We were created simple and ignorant. Some of us were created more recently, others started their journey countless millennia ago. Spirits are of different orders, according to their individual degree of self-purification. These degrees are unlimited because there is no line of demarcation that acts as a barrier between each order. For demonstration purposes, however, if we consider their general characteristics, we can reduce them to three main orders and some subdivisions. In the third order are those who are toward the bottom of the scale, the imperfect spirits. These are characterized by ignorance, pride, selfishness, and all the evil passions that delay their advancement. They have an intuition of God, but they do not comprehend God. Not all are essentially evil, however. Some are more frivolous, thoughtless, and malicious than downright wicked. Some do neither good nor evil, but the simple fact that they do no good reveals them to be imperfect. Their knowledge about the things of the spirit world is limited, and the little they do know is confused with the ideas and prejudices of corporeal life. In the second are those who have reached the middle of the scale. Their main concern is the desire to do the good. Some possess scientific knowledge, while others display wisdom and benevolence. The more highly evolved ones combine knowledge with moral qualities. As spirits, they encourage good thoughts in people and dissuade them from the path of evil. They also watch over the lives of those who have made themselves worthy, and they neutralize the influence of imperfect spirits on those who do not yield to them. When incarnate, they are good and benevolent toward others. They do good for its own sake, and they neither allow themselves to be led by pride, selfishness, or ambition, nor do they display hatred, bitterness, envy, or jealousy. In the first order, we may put those who have already reached perfection, the pure spirits. These spirits have ascended through all the degrees of the hierarchy and have freed themselves from all the impurities of matter. Having reached the highest perfection possible for created beings, they have no more trials or expiations to endure. Moreover, because they are no longer subject to reincarnation in perishable bodies, they live eternally in the bosom of God. But such bliss is not a monotonous idleness lived in perpetual contemplation. They are the messengers and ministers of God, whose orders they carry out to maintain universal harmony. They assist humans in their distress and inspire them to do good or to expiate the wrongs that keep them from supreme bliss. For more study, spiritistacademy.com.
Okay. So, wonderful video. So, and I thought this was a good start for us to say we have the same beginning and we will have the same ending. But I'd like to start our discussion today with a statement from Kardec on the Spiritist magazine of 1863. Kardec says, "We work to give faith to those who believe in nothing, to spread a belief that makes them better for each other, that teach them to forgive their enemies, to look at each other as brothers, without distinction of race, caste, sect, color, political or religious opinion. In a word, a belief that gives birth to the true feeling of charity, fraternity, and social duties." So, racism. Unfortunately, we are seeing recently a lot of episodes of racism against others, racism in terms of this this theater is for this kind of people. There is a segregation there. This movie is for that social class. This employment, it is for this kind of gender. So racism in terms of salary differentiation between male and female. So we do have a lot about racism, even though we kind of evolve if you compare some years ago in which we have the slavery. We kind of evolve, but it is not enough. We need to do our homework. In order to start this, um, I will instead of asking questions direct to everyone, as Silvia suggests, let's have a discussion here. And my first question, it is, what is racism? What do you think, guys? What is racism? Who's gonna be first? Nadja.
I can go first. Actually, when I was preparing myself for this for tonight, I was checking the difference between racism, prejudice, xenophobia, and they are all synonyms. Intolerance and racism, as Cambridge Dictionary uh, defines as policies, behaviors, rules, etc., that result in a continued unfair advantage to some people and unfair or harmful treatment of others based on race, or harmful or unfair things that people say, do, or think based on the belief that their own race makes them more intelligent, good, moral, etc., than people of other races. Um, when you have this, and prejudice is unfair or an unreasonable opinion or feeling, especially when formed without enough thought or knowledge. Um, when we talk about the definitions, it's I marked as unfair and harmful, because they do harm, psychological harm, and this is very is a kind of like a trauma that from childhood can be deep in their soul. And this, if it's not worked and talked and changed, then the person is just having this harm inside, and it just grows. And if they find people that have their same experiences and then the same think that it was something unfair and harmful, and then they form these groups, and as you said, then the segregation, so like you start separating people, which is also unfair, when fairness is balance. So justice is that balance that we have, between good and evil, between the white and the black, between the good and the bad, between the poor and the rich. So we have to have balance in life in general. So, and then when we start segregating or separating this and excluding then the other, that's the line where things get a little bit ugly. So I I just want to say again that this is harmful and unfair, because it hurts very much people when it stays and for many years until it's worked and clearly showed that sometimes it's not the person, but the situation, and we all need to change the way we say things, the way we behave. Sometimes we think that it's not, oh, it's just a joke, but it's not. It's being harmful to others. So we have to be very, very careful to how we say things, and especially nowadays, I think with the internet, in Brazil especially, I think that we see a lot is with politics as well. It's a lot of segregation. I think the word for tonight could be segregation. So I will give the words to Charles and Silvia to complement.
So good evening, Marco. Thank you for having us. So, Charles, what is your thoughts about what is racism?
Yes, so as I told a little bit during the introduction, the concept of science at the epoch of Kardec admitted that there were existing races which are superior to superior races and inferior races. So science, the scientific conception at that time was racist somehow. And the spirits were, together with Kardec's question, were very assertive on the fact that it is the same spirits which are incarnating in all the different races or ethnies around the world. The same spirits are incarnating woman or male or female. The same spirits are incarnating rich or poor. So, from the spiritist body of knowledge point of view, there is absolutely not any reason we can justify any concept which is linked to racism or even to any discrimination, whatever it is. And this was very lucky from the beginning, because again, it was at a time where the science itself had the concept which were based on a racist paradigm, and even some ways of where Kardec was writing could be misunderstood if we don't put them back in this concept, because Kardec was using, in order to express himself, the scientific concept of his time. And due to this reason, of course, there are some ways to write some things or statements or phrases in the spiritist body of knowledge that today we would write completely different. But at that time, he had not a lot of other choices to use the scientific concept which were valid in the midst of the 19th century. Nevertheless, from the beginning, and as well Kardec and as well all the spirits who came to answer were categorically rejecting any form of racism or discrimination, whatever it is. So this is very lucky from the spiritist body of knowledge.
Yeah, I agree with you, Charles. And also, it's important to say that the terminology racism started in a research from a French scientist. I'm looking for here his name. It is Linot.
Linné?
Linné. He made the division of the groups, the human in groups in the Africa, America, Asia, and Europe. And but the oh, what is the name? This guy, Georges Cuvier.
Ah, Cuvier, yes.
Yes, he was the first one to start to talk about racism. So, my dear Silvia, light us with your wisdom.
Wow. This is it's a subject that's very important to talk about, but at the same time people get very, it's so easily to be offended, I think, when people wanted to offend. But I think, consider what Nadja and Charles said. There is just one thing that I would like to read here to start my conversation on the topic. In the Spirit's book, in question 52, the diversity of human races, Kardec asked the Spirit, he asked, what is the cause of the physical and moral differences that distinguish the various races of men upon the earth? And the answer of the spirits were climate, modes of life, and social habits. The same difference would be produced in the case of two children of the same mother if brought up far away from one another and surrounded by different influences and conditions. For the children thus diversely brought up would present moral resemblance to each other. And said, and did the human race come into existence on various points of the globe? And the answer of the spirits were yes, at the various epochs. And this is one of the causes of the diversity of human races. The people of the primitive periods being dispersed abroad in different climates and forming alliances with those with other countries than their own gave rise perpetually to new types of humanity. But he emphasized the same species. And I think this is very, very important to set the question of race, because I think now, and I mean, I know we do have a very sad history about racism and prejudices of all kinds. But in the creation of mankind itself, there is no difference. The only difference is the climate, were the places where people were living, and the human race were created equally in different parts of the globe. And eventually they mix, we all say that Homo sapiens came from Africa and joined, but here there were the Neanderthals here in Europe, and there are other types of races as well everywhere. But this was to do with the climate, was to do that they were created at different times. In no way whatsoever all the difference that we have in humanity is to do with difference, with superiority of any kind, in ethnicity, color. There is no difference, when he says, but do this difference constitute a distinct species? And the Spirit said, certainly not. All of them constitute one single family. So, I mean, the spirits are so incisive in saying that although there are differences about humanity, there is no, we are the same species. And another that he said as well, he asked the question, if all the human species do not proceed from the same progenitor because we're creating different parts, he said, should they, on that account, cease to regard one another as brothers? And the answer from the spirits were very, very straightforward and very no way to confuse it in any way at all. He said, all men are brothers in virtue of their common relation to the Creator, because they are animated by the same spirit and tend towards the same goal. The human mind is always prone to attach literal meaning to statements that are necessary, imperfect, and incomplete. I think Charles had said this when he started speaking. And we see here that the fact that different types of people are created in different places, which actually change the time, or the climate, or the times they live, the modes of life that people had, and how they sort of move. That there were a lot of moving around, and they met other people, and they, some of became extinct, but like the Neanderthal, they thought they were extinct, but they have found DNA of the Neanderthal in many European people, and now I think one of the greatest thing to really bring all this to a concise and clear answer is the question of the human genome, because we are all the same. And the spirits already told us that we are all the same because we have the same relation to the Creator. So in a way, science, as it progresses, confirms what is written in the Spirit's book for the answer that the Spirits gave us 160 years ago. That is, the differences does not make us different. On the contrary, it's just part of mankind. And I think Charles made the point as well about, how we are, we as a spirit, we reincarnate in different countries, in different religion, in different ethnicity. So this kind of, and it's possible, very, very easy to understand why sometimes the question of race, it becomes so intense, because there has been a lot of prejudice, has been a lot of unfairness. But I think, in a way, to move the pendulum completely to the other side, and now the fact that you are one race and not another, everything is wrong, it's almost like it's even worse than it was before. And this is something that I feel it's not something nice to happen, because it will create a lot and lots and lots of problems, even more than before. Like we have now a lot of television films and films that are made, and not films, because it would be okay, a film, but a documentary in which the race of someone that everybody knows who it is. The question of, they made a film about Cleopatra being an African lady, a Black woman, and everybody knows she's a Macedonian Greek. They have statues of her, they have coins with her, and this kind of things that's been happening now is incorrect, because somehow we are wanting to go to the other side, and everyone is equal, because we are all children of God. We have a relationship with us. And I think science has proved that we are all equals, because our genome is the same in the human species, no matter who we are. And I think, just to conclude, I'm always reminded by that speech of Dr. Martin Luther King that he did in Washington. I have a dream. I said that one day my children will be judged by the strength of their character and not the color of their skin. And I think this was so poignant at the time. It was such an incredible thing to say, very horrible segregating times, that people didn't have any advantage because of their color. It does not exist anymore. He didn't live to see it. And he said, I may not get there to the mountain with you, but it will happen. And now, there's some groups of people wanting to turn it the other way around. And this is a sad thing, because I think going back to what the Spirit says, we are all brothers in virtue of the common relation we have to the Creator. So that's my bit. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Yeah,
Can I just compliment a little bit?
sure.
As we said that we're gonna be like a talk, and in the Spirit's book also saying that all men are equal before God. The sun shines on everyone. So the same way that the sun shines on me, on Silvia, on Charles, on Stevan, and also on everybody else around this globe. So there is no difference between us. We are born naked. We are born from a mother and a father cells. No? So like even if you don't have a mother or don't, but it's still to be you physically, anatomically, like flesh and blood. So you have to have those cells. So we are born the same way. So it is very, very difficult to understand because I never had any major problem with racism or xenophobia or anything. So for me, I cannot say that I understand what some people suffers, but also I try to avoid this kind of extremism, like Silvia was saying, that now is getting on the on the other way around. So it's like from one extreme we got to this maybe a plateau where more or less we are all equal, but now some people want to change on the other way around. But as I said in the Spirit's book, that we are all subject to the same laws of nature. We are born equally, and we are subject to the same sufferings. So we will born, we will grow, we will have gray hair, and we will die one day. So that's something that most people don't understand. And I made a note here that was so interesting to find information in the Spirit's book from many years ago, 106 years ago, about equal rights between men and women, about the situation of slavery, freedom of thoughts, of beliefs, the free will. So it's I think if someone that is listening to us or watching this program now or in the future hasn't got the opportunity to read the Spirit's book, it's an amazing to think that at that time they were already ahead as we are now. So yeah, so that's it.
Okay, thank you, Nadja. And good evening, Bruno Medanya. Thank you for watching us. And guys, if you do have any questions, please write in the comment boxes. And this is an open discussion here. Nobody here knows more than you guys. We are just talking about this topic here. And I'm glad you mentioned the question 52 of the Spirit's book, Silvia, uh, because the where the human being is located, he needs to adapt to it. No, and of course, this 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 human being will develop skills that in other regions they may not need. It's like for us when we go into to swim, we will get proper swimsuits. We don't need boots. We don't need jumper. We don't need trousers. We don't need anything. This we need a swimsuit. And Charles, since we we saw in the video. Spiritism, spirits are progressing, so everyone, all of us, will become a pure spirit. um, I don't know when I will get there, but I will get there. uh, but we can say that spiritism is a pedagogical teaching.
Yes, of course. I mean, it has been very well demonstrated and explained in the video at the beginning. Huh? We all have the same point to start. Huh? We have all been created simple and without science, without knowledge, but with the potential to progress indefinitely towards perfection, which is the combination of intelligence and also goodness and morality. So clearly, I mean, starting from this point of view, Spiritism is bringing, because it seeks the improvement of the individuals, encourages everyone to every day become a little bit better than the day before, to make efforts to eliminate our bad tendencies and to replace them by better tendencies. The criterion between bad and good or good and evil is the conformity or not with the natural laws. So it's a universal, neutral criteria. It's not what is written in the Spirit's book or nothing like that. So all this is then encouraging to the improvement of the individuals, which in turn will result in the improvement of the human society on Earth. Now we can see the science has progressed and has made these concepts which came through the spirits and have been codified by Allan Kardec 150 years ago. This is now somehow this turned into the main paradigm of science with regards to this question. And Silvia told it very well. 99.9% of our genes are identical, and the 0.0 or 0.1%, which is different, sometimes is in the same so-called race, where there are bigger differences than from one race to the other. So basically, science has today proven that there are no human races. There is only one human race on the Earth. And all these difference and concept from the races, as it has been explained by all of you, by all of us, are coming from some preconceived thoughts, and also as instruments in order to explore, manipulate, or dominate some other people, in order to justify bad actions, which again today are completely rejected. Unfortunately, we still see some conflicts here and there, which are based on such ethnical differences. For instance, or the Rohingya close to Myanmar, or even somehow between Russian and Ukrainian, which are very similar one to the other. A lot of mixing happened along the time. Yet still, you see, sometimes these totally undefendable argumentations for justifying an action which is nothing else than willing of one population to dominate another one, or of one autocratic system to avoid some other country going to some more liberty or democratic systems. So really, I mean, sorry, I went a little bit out of your question, but clearly, yes, the Spiritist body of knowledge has a pedagogical teaching dialogue, encouraging science to progress, to search for the truth. And Kardec brought this additional element into these studies, which is the communication, the existence of the soul and the communicability of the souls from disincarnated people with us incarnated people. So enlarging even more this pedagogical approach.
Yes, yes, I agree. It is because in certain way, the spiritist philosophy improves the man in the society. Like we always know, we know that the love of God is in our conscience. So we do know what is right, what is wrong. We do know when we are harming someone. And we need to learn that even though I know it is wrong, but I decide to go ahead, there are consequences. And unfortunately, we like to point fingers. I'm suffering. Oh, it's not my fault. I'm always being good. But how is your example to your children? Do you allow your children play with different children's compared to yours? Do we look those childs, special childs, with kind of, oh, that's the weirdos. So we're seeing a lot of bullying being applied in the schools, especially in the US. But we do have. So what's the role the parents are doing here? What's the parents are teaching to their children? Because school needs to avoid it. Yes, need. But education, moral education, comes from home, not from school.
But that's a completely different kind of fish, isn't it? And is a theme for another conversation, I would think.
Yeah.
Because we are living times of great transformation. I think our planet is really now in this process that's changing, and we are coming towards the top. But I think another point as well that usually when people talk about racism, talk about race and things, and we know how prejudice can be destructive, not only to the people who are destroyed, but in the 20th century we had terrible things, with the persecution of the Jewish people during the war and before, and not only those, but gypsies, and included also children who were born with physical illnesses. They were also destroyed for, aiming for a pure race and that kind of thing. And it's extremely destructive for the whole of humanity, this kind of thing. But also, I think one of the things that usually is associated with racism is slavery. And I think the concept that we have of slavery is extremely wrong, because most people, and there was a situation, of course, a historical reason why this thing, but slavery has been with humanity from the time they were, first aware of themselves. It was never because of race. people were slaves in Rome. They were from Britannia or from Gallia or from whatever. If they lost the war or if there was something, they would become slaves. Had nothing to do at all with race, because people of a certain race would become slaves. It never happened. People would enslave each other, and only when it went to had the possibility of traveling to go to another, to take people from one country to another. And even in the situation of Africa, that there were a lot of African slaves from the many countries of Africa, because Africa is a continent with many countries in it. A lot of people were enslaved, but they were sold by their own people, because white people would never get into subtropical Africa. They wouldn't be able to survive malaria and all that kind of thing. So it's nothing to do with race. Slavery always existed in the human race, unfortunately. And I think question 829 of the Spirit's book, this book is so wonderful, is Kardec asked the Spirit, are any men intended by nature to be the property of other men? And they answered, the absolute subjection of any man to another man is contrary to the laws of God. Slavery is an abuse of strength. It will disappear with progress, gradually, as all other abuses will disappear. And I think this, when you talk about Spiritism being pedagogical, even though, as Charles pointed out, some things are written in a certain way, but even you can take the book, even with the difference sometimes of writing, it's absolutely clear. There is no way to get it confused when he said it's an absolute subjection of one man by another is against the laws of God. So any abuse of any kind, whatever it is not is against the laws of God. And we know that when we go against the laws of God, then when we suffer. And I think the reincarnation also is a way as well for us to learn that we can be born in any race, in any situation, rich, poor, and that's how we learn. And I think this is very important, because slavery is not connected to racism as such. It became now sort of the way people think, because even within the United States, in America, they had Black people in America who actually owned the slaves as well, So, I mean, it's just that everything seems to be upside down and made into very, everything is political now. And we seem to forget to go and research real history, not creating a documentary based on somebody's grandmother, an opinion of a grandmother, and they made the whole thing, changing people's race and everything. So I think this is very important, because in the Spirit's book, we learn we are all the same because of connection to the Creator. And slavery is against the laws of God. And what the Spirit said, it will disappear with progress, gradually, as all abuses will disappear. So, I think so. Going back to the beginning, to remembering the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, people will be judged by who they are, if they are capable. Because I think sometimes, a person works really hard and he study hard and they do things, but then they occupy a position, and then others will say, oh, you're there because of this privilege that you have now, and completely dismisses the person who maybe worked really hard to be in a place. So it can be quite prejudicial, this kind of imposition, political impositions and things. And I think we as spiritists, that we have, things like when he said, the only freedom that we are complete, no one, absolutely nobody can do anything to us, is a freedom of thought. And if we think something that's good and we try to be better and see people for who they are, for their character, and then we ourselves behave in a way, because what you were saying about parents, sometimes parents can make mistakes as well with their own children. So, we will learn, like he said, with progress, all those differences will disappear and will be just good spirits, because it's our destiny to be enlightened. Yeah. And those are only physical differences anyway in the spiritual world. And there's no, those differences do not sexual differences, color differences. They don't exist in the spiritual world. So there.
Yeah, I agree, my dear.
And
And
I'm sorry, another thing.
Go
Just
ahead.
one simple thing that we can just say that now with those DNA tests, they all show that our DNA is linked to everywhere in the world. So if you check my DNA, and just because I'm born in Brazil from a Lithuanian Portuguese family, but then I have a DNA from America, from Turkey, from south of South America. So it's like not only my spirit has changed over hundreds times, but also my DNA is from all over. So science is again proving that we are all mixed.
Yeah. No, it's like Marco. Thank you for your inputs here. I understand what you are saying, but we need to. I think in your second comment, you summarize everything. We will reincarnate whatever we should be in order to learn a lesson, in order to become a better person, in order to evolve. And of course, uh, if the someone is incarnated because it was a slave one, that's not the objective. The objective here is learning and progress. We need to fight with the tools we have. Today I'm here in Ireland. It means I need to learn something here. Charles in France, he needs to learn something there. Nadja is in Lithuania, she needs to learn something there. Silvia is in UK, she needs to learn something there. And even more UK, how many people not British are in UK? A lot, a lot, because
London, less than 35% of the population in London is actually English.
yes. So the may I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Silvia, but I think London's mayor, it is a probably he born in England, in the UK, but his parents was Indian, if I'm not wrong, or some. You are in the mute.
To come out of mute. Yes, he was born in England, yes, but his parents were, I think, from Pakistan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I mean, everybody's such a mixture in here, and now even more. But less than 35% of the population in London is actually English. So they managed to be a minority in their own country, which sucks.
And we could even add to this that the diversity is enriching the society itself. If we would be all like coming out of a car factory, everyone a copy paste of the other, it would be so boring, isn't it? It's so good to see people of different cultures, different languages, different. This is what makes enriches a lot the human society here on our planet.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of positive aspects in all this diversity. Like
It's
the
good when
Amazon forest, if it would not have this big diversity, it would have disappeared already.
exactly, yeah. But I mean, it would be good if people could really have respect the diversity, try to impose an outside culture without respect for, because diversity can be very good, but in terms, but can also create an imposition on people to have to accept beliefs that they have lost in the last 600 years, and people died and were sacrificed to have freedom of thought. And I think one of the things that I always admired about England was the sense of individual and the fighting for what they believed. Having freedom of thought was something very important here. Begun, before, but for sure, the Magna Carta, when the king had to sign a paper that he was not God's sent to the earth, and he had to respect the barons, And I think that there was something, this kind of freedom of speech and freedom of liberty. It's something that was very precious here, and it wouldn't be nice to lose it.
Yeah, we can conclude saying that um, the Spiritist teachings have absolute respect for human diversity. And Spiritism have a duty to cooperate for the progress of the humanity, for the humankind, let's say. Exercising charity in all the sense, like the bleep, Charles, benevolence to all towards all, indulgence for the imperfection of others, and forgiveness of the offense.
Mm-hmm. And also, Stevan, that is here in the Spirit's book. Here in question 837, when Kardec says, what is the effect of hindrances opposed to freedom of conscience? And the Spirit said, the constrainment to act otherwise than as they think, and thus make hypocrites of them. Freedom of conscience is one of the characteristics of true civilization and of progress. So the Spirit's book is a map of how to be a better human being and how to be truly who you are. It's like that Greek philosopher Pindar. He said, be who you are. And I think that's what the Spirit's book teaches us.
Yes.
To see what in us is not very good and how we can change.
Yes.
And we will develop this subject next week, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, yes, that's right. That'll be nice.
Okay, our time is up. Look, it's
okay.
So thank you for the good discussion today. Let me
It's falling apart, my book.
let me go to our announcements here. So next week, like I said, our topic is a man of honor. This is an important topic to know what we need to do. Our spiritist psychology studies. Fabrício Sussão, it's gathering the names, and you can join the studs, and please contact him. Every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. London time, Charles, Munir, and Guilherme, they have a online course of the book, The Medium's Book. Ebony Paris, every Monday, at 8 p.m. UK time, she holds a study of the book Astral City, No Solar. And every other week, Time to Talk with Guilherme Caldas and Faye Waddington. And this is it from us today. I want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Bruno Medanha. Merci, Charles. Thank you, Silvia. Thank you, Nadja. I know it's late for you there. You are almost in the future. But thank you all for this wonderful conversation here.
Thank you. Thank
All
you
the best.
all.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Good
much.
night.
Nice to see
God
you.
bless.
Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.